wall. 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 Wall.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. It's going to be only America first. America first. The American people will come first once again. With respect, the respect that we deserve. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is NickJFuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be with you this evening. Thursday already. It feels like the week has just flown by, and we've got a lot to talk about tonight. It's going to be one of those episodes, where we talk about foreign policy and North Korea and China. I know that's not the fan favorite, all right? It's not my favorite either, but that's the news, and that's what we got to talk about. So there is actually a lot to discuss in what's happening over in Asia. We'll be looking at two major stories which have been developing for a long time. We've been putting this off for a while, but it's the news. It's what we have to talk about. We got the situation in North Korea where, if you've been paying attention to the news, it's been rapidly spiraling out of control. And this was for years, or I guess for literally 2 years, a couple of years, I think the only significant major achievement that you could say that the president accomplished, which was totally beyond a doubt. You could look at immigration, you could look at trade. There's a lot of things where I think you could pick and choose, and you could argue that progress has been made, but the North Korea summit, to me, when that happened in 2018, was historic. There was nothing like that. I think that was the moment when everybody said, this man has the potential to become a great president. And what we've seen since then, unfortunately, we saw another North Korea summit in February. We've seen a couple of weapons tests, 2 missiles tested today. We've seen the complete and total collapse of that diplomacy. So we'll be talking about that, in particular, a couple of developments from today. Today, the United States seized a North Korean cargo ship which was disobeying the sanctions. They were exporting coal and importing heavy machinery. So we took one of their ships. Allegedly, in retaliation, North Korea launched 2 short-range missiles, which is their first, or rather, actually, their second such missile test since November 2017. A big escalation. So we'll be talking about North Korea and what that entails and the future of that, and then we'll also be talking about China. There's another situation gone awry. Here was another one where it wasn't completed, but I think this was an area where people said, well, at least the president is making America respected. At least the president is fighting for American workers, businesses, even the farmers when they were being attacked, when China targeted soybeans, for example. Here was an area where the president was winning, where he was fighting, where he was standing up for the American people. And it's another one where it's collapsed. Now, this one, and in both cases, I think the president is still, working towards a solution that is good for everybody. But in both cases, it's totally fallen apart. We're back to square one. We see that in our trade negotiations with China this weekend, they have totally collapsed. Allegedly, and this was made public, or this was made available to a number of journalists in a diplomatic cable, that China allegedly came to the negotiating table this week, and they reneged on like dozens of promises that they had made in this entire process. If you remember, this all began in the G8 summit back in December, when President Trump promised to postpone a series of sanctions increases because he was hopeful that him and Xi Jinping could make a deal on trade. And so that sanctions increase was postponed until January, and then postponed indefinitely because progress was being made on a framework deal. It looks like that's totally out the window. There's no agreement anymore. It's totally in crisis. So, a great way to start off the Thursday, right? A solid end penultimate show here. The black pills, they just keep flowing, right? So we'll be talking about those two things. It should be a pretty informative show. Should be a pretty educational show. Look, it can't just be me going off about the same thing every night. I think that's legitimately the expectation. People think it's going to be the immigration and Israel show. We got to change it up a little, all right? We gotta reach and extend our horizons, right? That's what my parents always tell me. So expand our horizons. So we'll be talking about that. I got to tell you, I'm not feeling well. Do you hear me? I'm all stuffed up, congested. I'm a little bit later than normal. Normally I'm like a couple minutes late, all right? Sue me. But I'm a little bit later than normal because this whole day, and I don't know if you heard me yesterday, but my allergies have been terrible this whole week. And it's all in like the nasal cavity. It's just total blockage, total congestion. And I literally can't get on the show because my nose is running and I can't breathe. And so I'm frantically blowing my nose. I'm sniffling, blowing, sniffling. I'm where is it in the nasal cavity? What operation do I have to do? What flow? What direction does it have to go for it to just kind of go away so I can breathe? I don't know. So I'm blowing my nose. I guess I should have said good morning as well because I just woke up from a nap. I was trying to fix my hair in the mirror. I said, you know what? We're going to go with the hairstyle that says, "Good morning, world. We're ready for a great start to the day." I was up all night working in the content laboratory. Lots of big things happening. I can't say anything just yet, but there's a lot of things coming. Interviews, merch, possible technological developments which I don't even understand, but which are in development. So I'm in the content laboratory. I'm up all night, tediously working. It's like the Iron Man montage in the first movie when he gets locked in the cave and he's banging on things and there's saws going and blowtorch, So I'm up all night, up all day. I go down for a quick nap at like 3 o'clock, got Fox News on in the background. So between the allergies, the lack of sleep, I'm just swimming, right? I'm all over the place, right? We're going to try and make it through, but we're going to try and make it through. The show must go on. You know what? The mortal flaws, okay, the poor health, whatever, it doesn't faze me. We are animated by our love for life, right? Before we get into the current events, I do want to talk about a couple of things here. I just want to take notice, just so you understand where I'm coming from on these things. We still, we were so optimistic last week. Well, I don't know if I was optimistic, but, we've been watching this basically since last Thursday. It's been a full week now. The Facebook bans. It is just incredible to me. I don't know if it's incredible or surprising anymore, but I guess it's a shame that we saw it's been a full week since Loomer, Milo, Paul Watson, Alex Jones, all these people get kicked off Facebook. It's obviously politically motivated. And it's amazing because we saw the tweets. They know about it. Brad Parscale, the digital media guy in the campaign, Dan Scavino, Katrina Pearson, Don Jr., Donald Trump, they all know about it. They were all tweeting about it all day Thursday, all day Friday. Some of them are still tweeting about it. I saw Brad Parscale tweeting about Gab yesterday. They're all talking about it. They're all talking about it. Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. And this really, to me, is the biggest black pill of all. This is what makes me the most pessimistic because, look, the immigration system can deteriorate. The North Korean diplomacy can go awry. There are greater things that are, crashing and burning right now. But again, as we said a million times, social media is like the number one priority right now. It seems to me like the easiest thing to fix if there was a will of the administration resolved to do something about it, but just nothing has been done. And I said last week, watch and see. Jack Posobiec, boom, boom, boom. The president's tweeting about it. This is huge. This is crazy. Take that, the left. And here we are a week later. It's the same problem. And they're banning more people. They're banning Jewish people now. That tells you it's serious, When Jack Dorsey says, you know what, I'm going to start banning Sephardic Jews and Jewish lawyers, and then it's like, whoa, this guy's drunk with power. You know what? Maybe he does run the show, right? So that's pretty disappointing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this LGBT shooting with the media. We talked about this yesterday, of course, talked about the shooting and what that's really all about, the fundamentals. I didn't really give you the partisan kind of thing, but really the greater issue, which is the elites and the direction of things overall. But here's another thing where it's just incredible to me the extent to which this has been memory hold. I think you really have to take notice of that. That's one of the things that kind of woke me up more than anything during the 2016 election, was realizing the extent to which the media is totally in collusion with one another. All the media outlets are coordinating. They're all working together to suppress some stories, to elevate other stories. They're nakedly working towards an agenda. That was the biggest thing that woke me up. Because the red pill about this, what's really consequential about this, you might say, okay, well, CNN has a left-wing bias. NBC has a left-wing bias. They're not going to cover this shooting because it doesn't conform to their narrative. They're not going to cover this Colorado school shooting because it was perpetrated by a transgender girl and a homosexual boy, and they're both left-wing, and they're both anti-Christian, and they didn't use an assault rifle. And the people that ended up saving the day were, I think it was an ROTC student or some guy who wanted to be in the military, and total Chad. I think one of them was like a pagan or something. So it totally didn't fit the narrative, but that's really not sufficient. I would understand where people might get to this conclusion and then stop. They say, oh, well, CNN, they're not covering the shooting because CNN is left-wing. And this story doesn't fit the left-wing agenda. Well, CNN's left-wing, what are you going to do about it, right? We just got to support right-wing media. You got to go further than that. You got to dig deeper. So entertain me, indulge me for one moment here. It goes beyond this, because it's not just CNN. It's all the media outlets. It's all their affiliates. It's the local. It's the national. It's all the reporters. It's all the pundits. It's all of them. So that's number one, is it's not just, oh, well, one of these guys is fake news. No, it's all of them. They all have taken on, and we don't know how this is, but they're all in silent agreement. We're not going to cover this. We're not going to talk about this. You don't see anything about this once they figure out who the perpetrators are. And so you see, again, the extent to which it's coordinated and also combined with the agenda. And the final and the most logical conclusion you have to come to is about the nature of conspiracy theories. That's the real red pill about this stuff. When you see the media coverage, it's not enough to say, oh, left-wing bias, double standard, whatever. You have to get all the way, fall down the rabbit hole and realize, wait a second, if they can do this, what can they not do this with? 9 times out of 10, I would venture to guess that normal people will not look into 9/11, going to go out on a limb here, and say 9 out of 10, normal people do not look into 9/11 conspiracy theories. Why? Because they're conspiracy theories. And the basic assumption is, well, how could the media lie about this? How could the media and the government lie about this? They either wouldn't do that, they wouldn't have the will to do that. How could these people, oh, come on, you really think they're that corrupt and twisted? Why would they do that? They wouldn't have the will to do it, or they wouldn't have the means to do it. Well, there'd be a whistleblower at some level in the chain of command, right? I mean, somebody would blow the whistle, and how could they keep something like that a secret? Now, this is just one example. I would never question the official story on 9/11. I would never do that. But I would venture to guess that most people do not entertain general ideas, theories, perspective outside of the mainstream simply because they believe that the mainstream is going to give them the truth. There's this underlying assumption which isn't examined, that the media is probably not deceiving me. They probably don't want to deceive me, even though we see it all the time. But that's the kind of thinking that has to end. You have to realize, no, these people are willing and they are able to totally make things disappear that they don't like, and to elevate things that don't exist, like the Russia investigation as an example, right? And once you see that operation at work, and you see how this is effective and how competent they are at it and how widespread and frequent it is, you have to ask yourself, gee, what about all these other things that we gave them the benefit of the doubt on? What about these other conspiracy theories? Is it perhaps time to entertain them? And I joke on the show a lot about the moon not being real, or space not being real, or NASA is Hebrew for lies, or something like that. And it's honestly, a little bit of it is joking. Of course, it's tongue-in-cheek. But the other part is to undermine what you think you know about the world. It's to say, you know what? We don't know. We can't trust the media. So we have to entertain the state of neutrality. Well, hey, maybe the media is right. Hey, outer space is probably real, but what if it isn't? We don't really know. How do we know? The government tells us. The media tells us. Oh, they tell us the truth about all this other stuff, the Iraq War, Google Operation Sea Spray, Google Operation Northwoods. Then get back to me and tell me why I should believe outer space is totally real. So that's kind of the logic we have to apply. So that's just a quick little red pill. That's your little ice cream. Okay, that's your dessert, because we're going to talk about North Korea, but that's your hot take for the evening, all right? Just had to get that out of my system because, I see the memory holes. I see the stuff. It goes one step further. You have to take it a step further. And this was legitimately my line of reasoning back in 2016 when I was in college and I saw the Hillary's health thing. I saw Hillary Clinton collapse. It happened to be on 9/11, actually. She was attending some 9/11 remembrance ceremony in 2016 during the election. And you remember, she fainted completely. Right? They had to take her away from that event because she wasn't feeling good. They had to take her out a back door, and then she totally collapsed. And the whole media said, oh, no, nothing to see here, folks. She's fine. She had pneumonia. No, actually, it was just really hot. It was 70 degrees, and the story kept changing, but it never mattered. It was always a conspiracy theory. The people who were pushing it were bad faith actors. They originated the term. It was fake news, harmful disinformation that's hurting our democracy. Really makes you think. And who did they go after now? Alex Jones, InfoWars, Laura Loomer, anybody who would challenge the status quo. They want the monopoly on information. You know, I don't think they go after Alex Jones totally because he talks about gay frogs. It's because here's a guy who can reach tens of millions of people, and he is not under their control. He is not somebody that they can rely on to toe the mainstream and basically submit at the end of the day to the status quo. So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, folks. But anyway, we got to move on. The one last thing I'll say before we get into North Korea, forgive me, you know, there's just so much other stuff that's interesting to me. I would be remiss if I didn't read it off. Right before we got on the show, I tweeted about this. I said, am I awake? Is this real? And I couldn't tell because I was actually half asleep. I was on the couch half asleep. You know, I don't know if I'm delirious, but I'm reading this tweet from the president. It says, quote, "Great news today. My administration just secured a historic donation of HIV prevention drugs from Gilead to help expand access to PrEP for the uninsured and those at risk. Will help us achieve our goal of ending the HIV epidemic in America." And for those of you that know what PrEP is, you're like, what? What is going on in this administration? What is going on? Legitimately, every black pill that I've taken about this administration, it's just vindicated by the next one. It's like you take one black pill, and you're like, oh, well, is it really that bad? And then you got to take like 5 more. Do you understand what PrEP is? You know, I had a lot of people, because I tweeted about this. For those that don't know what PrEP is a drug. It's almost predominantly used by homosexuals. And what they do is they take this pill, and it effectively inoculates them from getting AIDS when they have unprotected sex with lots of men in a night or a weekend or whatever. And everybody knows this about that. Everybody, you know, who's with it knows that that's what this drug is used for. And so I'll read off that tweet, and people say, what's wrong with HIV prevention? I tweeted about this. I said, is this serious? Am I awake? You know, and people are like, well, what's the matter with HIV prevention? You want people to get HIV? It's not just... But you're kind of missing the point here. We are how many years into the administration, and what do we see? It's just like comical proportions of betrayal, of subterfuge. It's like Israel, there's just like a dump truck full of goodie bags and, you know, Happy Meals for the Israelis. It's foreign aid, it's IRGC, it's Golan Heights, it's all this other stuff. You know, for the criminals, we do criminal justice reform. That's like a Democrat thing. Republicans have never ran on that. And you want to know why? Because it doesn't actually help our voters. It actually helps Democrat voters be entitled to vote and reintegrate into society. It also helps drug offenders and, you know, people that should be in prison. It's a Democrat talking point. Excuse me. To excuse, ultimately, their constituency, which commits lots of crime. So it's like, we do all this stuff for Israel, we do all this stuff for criminals. Now it's like, we're really reaching here. We saw this during the State of the Union where he was like, you know, he did the same shtick. We're going to protect Israel, and here's this drug dealer that I released, and we're going to prevent AIDS. And by the way, here's 2 Holocaust victims, you know? And it's just like, where are we, man? I'm just dazed and confused. Where's 2016 Don? We want him back. We want 2015 Don back. Remember when he was in the South Carolina debate and he said, you know, the World Trade Centers fell under George W. Bush. That's not keeping us safe. Do you remember that guy? And now it's the president. Oh, thank you. We've now got homosexual AIDS drugs. Now you can go around pausing each other and it's no problems. Making America great again. You know, thanks everybody. I don't know. It's just gotten to crazy proportions. Like I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge that, you know, this president will defend literally every group of people except for his own supporters. Israelis, American Jews, criminals, blacks, Hispanics, homosexuals. It's like everybody is going to get a pass. Everybody's going to get a goodie bag. And we, the white supporters, you know, or the Hispanic, Afro-Latino supporters who are on Twitter, influencers, what do we get? Well, it's like we get nothing. We're chopped liver. So anyway, but we're going to get into the news here. As I promised, we have to get into the current events. So I guess we'll start with this situation in North Korea. We'll give you the latest here. Like I said, the 2 major developments is this coal shipment, which was seized, and the missile test. So this is according to BBC. It says, quote, the U.S. says it has seized a North Korean cargo ship accusing it of violating international sanctions. The Justice Department said the ship was used to transport coal, North Korea's largest export, but subject to a UN export ban. It is the first time the U.S. has seized a North Korean ship for breaching sanctions and comes amid worsening relations between the two countries. This is according to U.S. prosecutor Jeffrey Berman. He says, quote, "Our office uncovered North Korea's scheme to export tons of high-grade coal to foreign buyers by concealing the origin of their ship, the Wise Honest." Kind of ironic, right? I don't know. Not very subtle. You know, if this is a covert ship that's trying to sneak coal past U.S. sanctions in a totally illicit way, the Wise Honest, it's a little on the nose, don't you think? He says, quote, "The scheme was not only allowed North Korea to evade sanctions, but the Wise Honest was also used to import heavy machinery to North Korea, helping to expand North Korea's capabilities and continuing the cycle of sanctions evasion." And so if you're familiar with this situation in North Korea, this has kind of been their modus operandi. We slap on these really hard sanctions. We have this robust sanctions regime against them. And what really allowed us to make progress on the North Korean issue is we got China involved. That's really the calculus, I think, that only Trump understood. When Barack Obama transitioned over to Trump, he told Trump, he said, the number one issue you're going to face, the biggest threat, is North Korea. We're at our wits' end. There's really no room to do anything else other than go to war or just let them freely develop their nuclear arsenal. Both of these things are not really great options, right? We're probably headed towards war. And I think Trump, more than any other administration, understood, well, the one way you can crank up sanctions even further and make this economic pressure basically intolerable to the regime is to go to China. You know, and that was the reversal that people didn't see coming. Previous administrations didn't really want to work with China, or maybe they didn't see the opportunity, but throughout the whole sanctions regime for decades, China has been the lifeline. North Korea exports coal and other things, but coal is predominantly their number one export, and China is the economic lifeline that sustains all their big supply chains, that keeps the country running. And it's a poor country. They're having trouble, but that's what keeps them alive. That's what keeps them basically in stasis. And so Trump said, well, what if we went to China? And we said, we'll do a grand economic deal with you. We'll overlook, for example, one of your phone carriers or the improprieties in certain areas of trade if you'll help us with North Korea. And China said, okay. So they started sending back the coal shipments. They really got serious about the sanctions. They voted in the Security Council about increasing sanctions. And that's ultimately what brought North Korea to the negotiating table. They saw that on the one hand, this economic pressure was killing them. It's like what we talked about with Iran. It's the policy of containment. On the one hand, the economic pressure was killing them. There was also the threat of U.S. military intervention. Eventually, they said, you know what? We will come to the table. And we're not going to, they said that we'll give up our nuclear program, but, really, they're buying time. They said, okay, obviously the best alternative is we do a photo op with this orange guy. We go to Singapore. It's a great fanfare. We make some loose commitments, and we buy ourselves some time. Maybe we work out some wiggle room on the sanctions, some relief or whatever. But that's really why we are where we are. And since things have deteriorated with China, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, now you have this issue where North Korea is resuming their illicit sale of coal and their other trade relationships with countries like China and Russia. I think that Russia and China see an opening now that America's trying to take a hard line against both of those countries to use North Korea as sort of a wedge, as a bargaining chip, and say, okay, well, America's going to bust our balls, for example, in Syria. Where Russia is trying to solidify Assad's government. America's not leaving in northeastern Syria, and they're going to give us a hard time in Ukraine, and they're going to give us a hard time in a number of other areas. Okay, well, we're going to meet, and Vladimir Putin met with Kim Jong-un last week, and they say, okay, maybe we'll resume trade with you again. Maybe we'll embolden North Korea. And the same with China. They say, oh, America's going to pursue this hard line. They're going to threaten sanctions against us, and they're going to give us a raw deal. Well, maybe we're going to take the coal shipments again, and we're going to make North Korea your problem again. So you got to understand how all of this stuff is basically interrelated. So that's the coal shipment. We seize their ship, we take the ship, and we say, okay, under international law, under our sanctions regime, this is illegal. We're taking the ship. North Korea responds by saying on Friday in North Korea time, that, quote, a long-range strike drill, which was ordered by the leader Kim Jong-un, was successful, and this is according to their state media. It says the North fired 2 short-range missiles that flew more than 260 miles and 167 miles, respectively, across the country from a northwestern area, and that went over into the sea. So, and this is where it's kind of confusing. They say it was a long-range missile test, but it was a short range for the missile actually being launched. They only launched the missile 200 and some and 167 miles, but they said it was a long-range test, so you got to wonder what's actually going on there. Trump said, quote, "We're looking at it very seriously right now. Nobody's happy about it. The relationship continues, but we'll see what happens. I know they want to negotiate. They're talking about negotiating, but I don't think they're ready to negotiate." And so this has been part of a broader trend, as I said at the top of the show, of this entire diplomatic process, this entire relationship basically collapsing. Probably the high water mark was the summit last June in 2018 in Singapore, where Kim Jong-un and Trump got together. It was the first time the American and North Korean heads of state got together in history. You've had Korean and American delegations get together, but never since the Korean War have you had a high-level negotiation like that. So they sat down. North Korea made a commitment to complete, total, irreversible denuclearization, and America said, we're not going to give up sanctions in exchange for that. That's really the core negotiating posture, is that America wants complete, total, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization. We're not giving up sanctions. It's not going to be a reciprocal relationship where they give up a piece and we give up a part of the sanctions regime. It's all or nothing. You give up your nuclear program completely, verifiably, irreversibly, and then you get sanctions relief, or it's nothing at all. And North Korea, it always seemed like, was kind of shaky on these details. That's really the genesis of this problem. They were always it was always a question of, were they really making this commitment? Or were they always in the back of their heads in this delegation thinking, okay, you say that it's all or nothing, but we're going to bring you to the table, and we're going to promise big, and we're going to have another summit, and we're basically going to lead you on in the hopes that domestic concerns politically will force you to make a deal sooner. For example, if Trump imagines that this is going to be a wedge issue in 2020, if I can solve this issue, then this will be a big boon for me to run on in the next election. North Korea is wondering, okay, well, if I can basically impede a deal here, and I've led on everybody in the world that this is going to happen, and, I've puffed up Trump to be this great negotiator, if I pull out the rug from under him and say, you know what, we're really not ready to do anything until you give up sanctions relief, well, he'll eventually give on that, and I'll get the sanctions relief without actually really giving up the program. I think that was always... And that's what everybody always suspected the North Koreans were doing. That's what everybody always believed. At the end of the day, they were saying, even though they had signed multiple agreements saying, yes, we're going to denuclearize, that was always the idea. And it appears to be the case now, because they had that summit last year. It's been rough since then. Almost no progress has been made since that summit, where they made a very framework, abstract agreement, general principles, denuclearization in exchange for some kind of commitment to investment in the future. And since then, no progress has been made on the finer points, and actually it's gotten pretty ugly. You've had negotiators being expelled. You've had a couple of times where there's been increased friction. There was another summit, if you remember, in February, which is kind of weird how everybody forgot about that, but they had another summit in Hanoi in February where actually Trump called the summit early. They were supposed to have a big signing ceremony, where it was rumored that the president and the North Korean leader would declare officially the end to the Korean War between America and North Korea, but that didn't happen. Trump said, you know what, we're not making progress. These people don't want to make a deal, so we're going to leave 2 days early, and we're not going to sign anything. And that's like the advent of now the current state of things. You had probably when Trump got inaugurated, and you had this era of brinksmanship where it's threatening one another until eventually North Korea says, okay, we're going to take the first step. We'll extend an olive branch. We want diplomacy. You've got the June summit last year in Singapore where they say this is a new era. We are now having diplomatic relations. And then you have the February summit where now it's totally in doubt. Everything is in question. And since more recently, the last couple of weeks, you see North Korea doing weapons testing. They did a undisclosed weapons test a couple of weeks ago. Then they did a missile test, but it was short range. Now they say they did a long range test, and this flies in the face of the commitments they made last year or almost a year and a half ago, where they said we're not doing missile testing or nuclear testing anymore. So things have totally soured. It's totally fallen apart, and nobody really knows what's going to happen next. I have to tell you, I'm not optimistic about it, frankly, and this has really been the concern from day one, as I said. The North Koreans don't really want to denuclearize, and it was always in doubt whether or not Trump could sort of thread this needle where the calculus has always been that America wants North Korea to not have nuclear weapons. That's our number one priority with that country. And North Korea's number one priority is, well, we want the nuclear weapons. Well, how do you thread that needle? I made the case years ago that actually war would be justified in North Korea because here you have a legitimate difference, where these two interests are diametrically opposed. They're mutually exclusive. They cannot coexist at the same time, and there's no middle ground. You can't have half a nuclear program, so you either have one or you don't. It's in our legitimate interest to disarm them for there to not be nuclear proliferation. So I said, I'm not saying I want war or I would justify war right now, but I'm saying in the abstract it could be justified. And then Trump finally forced the hand of Kim Jong-un, allegedly. That was the idea, that he came to the negotiating table, he did the impossible, he threaded that needle, where somehow he was able to convince North Korea to just give up the nuclear program. And that's what everybody was skeptical about, is there really a scenario that we're willing to entertain where Kim Jong-un is really going to trust the president? He's going to build a personal relationship and personally trust in this man's commitment that if I give up my only nuclear deterrent, in other words, the only thing that will protect me from American intervention or invasion or total destruction of my regime, I'm going to take this guy's word for it that if I do that, I'm not going to be destroyed? Yeah, I don't know. Kind of like a fat chance, right? So I think we're seeing the collapse of that thinking, that logic, and the question remains, where do we go from here? The idea was for a long time, it really doesn't matter. The idea was after Singapore, it really doesn't matter what the timetable looks like. There's no rush to denuclearize. We have to build trust with North Korea, and what matters is that we're talking, and they're reintegrating with South Korea, and they're doing a lot of milestone landmark, mostly symbolic gesture type things with South Korea. But the idea was so long as missiles are not flying, we're okay. In the state of détente, in the state of, a relaxing of tensions, everybody's better off. But now it's clear that that probably won't remain. That probably won't last. We see that it really is kind of an all or nothing thing. We go back again to the cold, hard logic of this, which is they want the nuclear program. They have to continue to develop it. You understand that it's not as simple as they develop an ICBM and then they're done. No, they need to develop, obviously a more sophisticated and reliable ICBM. They want to develop more warhead technology. They want to develop nuclear subs. So this is something that if they're committed to a nuclear program, they have to continue to build it. If they are skeptical of America and they don't trust us, this is something that's going to come back eventually if we're not forceful enough. So it's a very tough tightrope that we're walking right now, and we'll see if Trump can navigate this. It's not an easy task. I would say it's totally uncertain in the future. I'm not optimistic that we're going to get a deal done anytime soon, or if that's even possible at this point. But we'll see if the president can sustain this détente for long enough that, hey, maybe something will change. Maybe there will be this miraculous building of trust, and these hostile relations will be called off. But right now it's pretty much totally in flux, and it's all destroyed. And that's a big shame because, as I said, that was like the number one thing where everybody could have said, everybody from left, middle to the right could say, without a doubt, okay, this is impressive. This is a big accomplishment, and this is a good thing. But now even that's out the window, and we said for years, what has this guy really done except for the tax cuts? Well, like North Korea, and even that's gone now, So that's North Korea. The other big story we have from today is China, the ongoing relations with China. And like I said, what set the stage for this was that meeting at the G8 summit all the way back in December. They said, and the president said, we will postpone our planned increase on the sanctions, or rather on the tariffs. We had put, I think it was a 10% tariff on $87 billion of Chinese goods in the beginning of last year. That extended to $200 billion worth of goods with a big tariff last July. And then the planned increase was to raise all the tariffs to 25% on that $287 billion worth of goods that were already tariffed. And that would have been pretty bad. And then Trump said, actually, on top of that, we'll tariff all remaining Chinese imports at 25% also. And we'll just sink your economy. And this is in response to, of course, decades of Chinese abuse, currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, predatory trade practices, predatory economic practices. It's not just barriers to entry like the fact that, for example, as Trump says, they bring cars into America and we put like a 2% tariff on them, we send cars to China and they put a 20% tariff on them, it's not even the obvious trade barriers that are a problem. It's other more complex, nuanced, sophisticated barriers to entry where, for example, they'll say to an American company, if you want to come into China and do business with the Chinese market, you have to tell us all your trade secrets. And then the American companies oblige because in the short term, they want access to this growing market. What happens is the Chinese then get that technology, they rip it off, and they steal all our business. Or the currency manipulation. What they'll do is they get a trade deficit with America, and part of the trade deficit, we have like a $500 billion with China alone, or something like that. It kind of varies between $500 and $800 billion over the last so many years annually. What they'll do with that deficit is they'll take the currency they get from it, they'll stockpile it in this special account, and then they will use this account to sort of systematically buy off and use their U.S. dollars on the currency market to manipulate the exchange rate with their currency and our currency. And what they do is they make their currency devalued, more competitive against the dollar. And what this does is it makes Chinese imports relatively cheaper compared to domestic American products. And this sustains this parasitic trade relationship we have with them. So it's like a whole host of things which the average person, I think, really doesn't even understand. You can explain, like, again, the taxes, 2% versus 20%, but it's much larger than that. It's much more pervasive, and it's horrible. I mean, why is China the second biggest economy in the world? It's because of practices like this. They've just sucked out all the wealth of our country, and we've let them do that. And so I guess that's a long-term what set the stage, if you need a little refresher on that. And so we said we're going to implement big tariffs on China. And we can do this because we're being abused. You really can't lose in a trade war. And this was the logic that Trump said when he announced the tariffs, is if we're losing $500 billion a year on tariffs, and we're losing intellectual property, and we're getting killed in all these sectors of the economy, which are the future, like robotics and AI and computers, quantum computing and things like that. You literally can't lose by putting tariffs on. You make money off the tariffs, you stop losing money. It's like, you start selling products domestically, it's like a no-brainer. So he puts big tariffs on in the beginning of the year, doesn't get the result he wants in trade negotiations. Okay, I'll tariff $200 billion worth. I'm not getting the result I want. I'll raise it to 25%, and then I'll tariff everything by 25%. And China eventually says, okay, uncle, we really can't survive that. We obviously in China need America more than you need us. If you put a 25% tariff on the whole $500 and some billion worth of Chinese imports into America, we're toast. And if you look at the Shanghai Composite Stock Market Index, their economy is like collapsed because of this. And Chinese businesses are terrified of this. It's really gutting them. It's had a major and a profound effect. So they said, okay, we will come to the table. We will negotiate. We will compromise on some of these big things. They said this at the G8 summit in December when they met with the president. I think this was in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And so Trump said, okay, if you're willing to come to the table and make a big, comprehensive deal and concede on big things, I will postpone the raising of tariffs. I think it was by 90 days at that point. So that was at some date in January. And then after which they postponed it indefinitely while they sorted out a very large and historic deal. And then we found out today, it was reported by Reuters. It says, quote, the diplomatic cable from Beijing arrived in Washington late on Friday night with systematic edits to a nearly 155-page draft trade agreement that would blow up months of negotiations between the world's two largest economies, according to 3 U.S. government sources and 3 private sector sources briefed on the talks. The document was riddled with reversals by China that undermined core U.S. demands. In each of the 7 chapters of the draft trade deal, China had deleted its commitments to change laws to resolve core complaints that caused the U.S. to launch a trade war: theft of U.S. intellectual property, trade secrets, forced tech transfers, competition policy, access to financial services, and currency manipulation. So basically, it's the same thing essentially with North Korea. And, a lot of people have this idea that, these Asian countries are really honorable. There's like, and I don't know, I guess my parents have said this, because I tell my parents, like, I go to school in Boston University. I'm not going to say anything more than that, But I went to a modern university, excuse me, in Boston, and I see what goes on with trade, and I read about it. And, I'll tell my parents and my mom, because I guess my parents are like ethnics. They're like, oh, well, I thought China was this honorable culture. It's like, these people are not honorable. These people are more shisty than the you-know-who's, okay? These people are like, they're pretty ruthless when it comes to these kinds of things. So what happens is, just like with North Korea, they come to the table. It's almost exactly what happened in North Korea. These bastards, they come to the table in December and they say, we're going to concede on everything, okay? We're going to make a big deal. It's going to be great. And in the meantime, you relieve the sanctions, okay? And we're like, okay, well, I was not doing a Chinese accent, by the way. That was not what I was doing. We're not going to impose this big sanction, or rather these big tariffs on your economy. We're going to give you relief. And the Chinese, hand rubbing intensifies. Very good, very good. We're relieved from these big tariffs. We're negotiating for months. We've come up with this big deal. We're ready to concede on everything. And like right before we're about to sign it, they send over the 155-page draft trade deal they've been working on for months, and they delete everything. They delete every promise that they made, everything that they were going to concede on, everything that they wanted to. They totally reverse everything that they promised back in December. And so Trump, and this is an area where I do like Trump. And it's funny, now I can't even say anything good about Trump, and then people are like, you're shilling for Trump. You badmouth this guy for like months. You say one nice thing. You're like, well, the one thing about Trump that I can say, people are like, you look at his boots. You're shilling for Trump. What, are you still on the Trump train? No, relax. I saw, like, just today, I'm like, Trump understands that the media is our enemy and so on. Oh, quit looking at his boots. Like, well, we've been badmouthing the guy all month. Anyway, so the one thing I do like about Trump is, he sees this as the personal insult. What a joke that it is. And he's like, you know what? We're just going to punch you in the nose. So he says we're going to raise tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods on Friday, tomorrow, to 25%. And then he says we're going to raise tariffs. We're going to create a tariff of up to 25% on the remaining $235 billion worth of Chinese imports that haven't been tariffed. So he's saying, okay, you know what? You want to play games? We're not going to play games. All Chinese imports will now be tariffed at 25%, which is to me just so epic. I love that. That's the one thing you got to like about Trump, is I guess it's a matter of pride for him, perhaps, when it comes to these things maybe that don't concern Israel so much. When it concerns, just the Sino-European relationship, he's a little bit more balls to the wall. And he says, you know what? China insults us. Fine. 25% tariff on everything you sell to us. That's so epic, because you got to understand, if you understand the context of Trump getting into office in the last 2 years, this is such a reversal from American policy for years. American policy for years was just to let Beijing walk all over us. Anytime they have a demand, anytime they have a request, like them getting in the World Trade Organization, and again, us not having reciprocal tariffs or currency manipulation or whatever. We don't classify them as a currency manipulator, and on and on. I mean, we let these people get away with everything. So that Trump gets into office and he changes the tune on China. And not only does he not let them walk all over us, but he says, you mess with us, you reverse our deal, I will just send your economy into the ground. I will tariff it until you're dead. So epic. And this is something which I think was talked about by Michael Anton. I'm not actually sure. I probably should have, but it just dawned on me. I should have put this in the notes, but it just dawned on me. There was an article that was written about this subject. Maybe it was Peter Thiel recently, which talked about how a lot of America's elites are actually reluctantly coming around to Trump's way of thinking on a lot of things. They'll never admit it, but China was the example that was given. I think it was Peter Thiel, talking about how everybody made fun of Trump when he was running and talking about, I'll make a better deal with China. I will put tariffs on them. I will force them to make a better deal. You can't lose a trade war, and so on. And he said, everybody in the media and the establishment, they laughed at him at first. But once he got into office, they all kind of got on board. And they said, you know what? Actually, it all makes sense. They kind of very quickly understood the dire nature and this critical point in time with our relationship with China, that they're rising militarily as a regional hegemon, that their economy is reaching this terminal velocity. We have an opportunity now to sort of strangle them in the crib before they become a big threat. And so now everybody in the establishment's kind of on board with this, that we have to be tough on China, again, both militarily and economically. So that's, to me, what's really impressive about this. I love it. And a lot of people have been saying China made a big mistake. Basically what happened is they got greedy. You know, they thought they were messing with George W. Bush or Barack Obama. They thought they could get away with something like this. Trump says they thought that they could wait him out and, maybe they'll just make a deal with somebody like Joe Biden in the next administration. And Trump said, no, you're messing with the wrong guy. You may be on the rise, but it's not your day yet. America still runs the show, and we're going to kick your economy in the nuts, and we're going to crush your stock market, and, thousands of factories are going to close in your country. It's going to cause big problems because you did this, and you're going to come to the table and negotiate. So I like that. I really like that about Trump. Maybe we don't stand up to Israel, okay? And maybe we don't stand up to the homosexuals or the Jewish lobby or Hollywood or anybody like that. But you know what? We're standing up to China, and there's something to be said about that. So I do like that, and hopefully we can do that. And I will say, this is the last thing I'll say, this is where the strength of the economy really becomes important. A lot of people criticize me. I'll say, well, having an economy is a good thing. Having a good economy is probably something we want to do, or I'll say exercising our foreign policy interests, probably a good thing also. And people say, oh, you're a neocon, you're a neoliberal, you're just like all these other conservatives. But you really got to understand how it's all connected here. Why is Trump able to do this? Why is Trump emboldened to say, I'm going to tariff $500 billion of Chinese imports at 25%? Why is he able to do that? Why was he able to sustain the trade war as long as he has? Because GDP is at 3.2% and unemployment's at 3.6%. That's ultimately, at the end of the day, why he's able to do this. These two indicators are the source of our economic strength. It doesn't affect us. And we've got a deregulatory environment, and we've got lower taxes for corporations. Hate to say it, but ease of doing business is going up, and corporations are coming back to America, and red tape is being cut. That has an impact. And maybe that doesn't have the profound impact on the middle class that we need it to, but it's towards a different end. You strengthen the American economy in these structural ways, and this gives us leverage over other countries to exert interest, to exert power in ways that benefit us additionally, in other ways. So it all builds on top of itself. People say, well, what's our interest in Venezuela? Or why should we be cutting the corporate tax rate? Well, if you look at it in a very black and white way, if you look at it in this totally emotional way of, it's not cutting taxes for the middle class right away, I'm upset about that. It should have been a more robust tax cut for the middle class. I would have liked a nicer tax cut, sure. But the purpose of it was a little bit different. It was indirect, and it's a little bit more sophisticated than that. And Steve Bannon explained this, I think, pretty insightfully. I don't think there's anything wrong with this explanation. He said, I would have liked to see a bigger middle class tax cut. He said, but the purpose of the 2018, or I think it was the 2017, it was December 17. The 2017 tax cut was to reorient the supply chains back to North America and become competitive against China again. And ultimately, that gives us leverage in the long run. And so you see how it's sort of indirect. You see how that is connected in ways which are not imminently visible or eminently direct and visible, tangible effects, but how that in the long term produces something that is in America's interest, which is if you have that kind of power and you have leverage over China, now that means we can make a really good deal on predatory trade practices and intellectual property and monetary manipulation and things like that, which are like huge for the long term, strategically and economically. And you can't do that if your policy is just like, populist garble, So you have to be nationalist, maybe be populist in mission and, style and all that, but nationalist substance is where it's at. Executing the interest of the state. And that requires an elite that knows what they're doing. And I think, Trump, Steve Bannon, when it comes to these things, when they're not, caught up in their personnel, which wreck everything, I think they kind of know what's going on. They know better than the generals what's up. So maybe I'll catch some flack for that, but that's, I think, the right take on that. So that's China, but we're going to take a look at our super chats, and we'll see what you guys are saying. We'll take a look. We'll try to wade through the unwashed masses, yet again, trudging through. I feel like, Star Wars when they get put in the trash compactor and they're, just wading through the garbage. There's like an alien popping up. That's what it's like with the super chats. It's just trash heap. No offense. I mean, I hope that's not an unflattering representation. It's all jokes, right? Mr. New Vegas says, promotional consideration for this news segment has been paid for by the Ultra Lux. The Ultra Lux live life in the lap of luxury. Thank you, Mr. New Vegas. Lauren Rose says, Ben Shapiro thinks saying okay gang is a personality. I hate when he does that. I hate when people have those little, I don't know what you would call those like verbal tics. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? Where Steve Bonnell, for example, will do this. He'll, after every sentence, he'll say, so blah, 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 right? And blah, 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 right? So then, right? It's always everything with right. I hate when people do that. Or okay, gang. Or, something like that. Just say what you're going to say. Why does it always have to be? I guess everybody does that. I guess I do that to an extent. I'll say, I'll say things like, I don't know. I don't even know what I would say as an example. It's funny. I probably catch it on when I watch my show a million times, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I guess I probably have some of those, but it bugs me when I see other people doing it, particularly Benjamin Shapiro. Benjamin Shapiro, when he's, and he's got this weird head tick too. If you ever watch his show, it's very weird. Does he have like Parkinson's? He's always like moving his head when he talks. I don't know if that's just like a neurotic Jewish thing or what, but he's always like, watch his show. You'll understand exactly what I'm talking about right off the bat. He's always like jittering, like shaking his head. And yeah, it's like this, okay, gang. The most unlikable guy ever. Versus me, eminently likable, supremely likable, liked by all, universal acclaim. Eleutheria Bear says, I was radicalized by Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, well, he's a profoundly alt-right figure, right? Hey, Bibi Netanyahu, I wish we had a leader like Bibi Netanyahu. Netanyahu knows how to get stuff done, right? I mean, totally ruthless politician. He gets it done, man. And he's obviously opposed to our interests, but, I don't think there's anything wrong with admiring a politician that is competent and that executes the will of their country. If it's adverse to our interests, we have to oppose that necessarily, but you can take a step back objectively and say, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Wish we had somebody who knew what they were doing in charge of our country. Lauren Rose says, Nick, be honest, did you pull out of Ameren because of the white nationalist implications and the potential deplatforming that would follow? That was a consideration, but like I said, it's a family matter. I don't know why, you can't just leave it at that, but that's what I've been saying all week, and for 2 weeks, I think, actually, people just give me a hard time about it. Rugal says, yes, $5 and up, but don't let crap posters get to you, big guy. They support the content, but are aimless Zoomers who don't know how to express themselves. I just get frustrated. I'm already frustrated all the time. I'm this hermit, all right? I don't sleep. I don't eat. I'm tearing my hair out because the country's going to the ground. And then what do I got to do? I got to sit here for 70 minutes. Allergies acting up. I'm coughing. I'm dying over here, and I got to read pee pee poo poo for $2. I am only human. I can only take so much. But I'm not going to raise it to $5. And that's not because I don't know how to do it. That's not because I tried to do it, but I couldn't figure it out. It's because I would never do that. It is truly a show for everybody. So I'll just sort through it. I'll just be a big boy and read all the monetary supports. But people are like, oh, boo-hoo. You have to read super chats for money. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message, okay? The show is about sending a message. People are like, oh, you're complaining that you have to read super chats all night? Yeah, I am. Because I'm not in it for the money, okay? I'm not some shekel grubbing, money goblin, all right? I am doing it. I am doing it because I love life, okay? Not because I love money. And then I will be damned if I am a slave to the super chatters in the same way that I would be a slave to an advertiser or a sponsor. Why do you think we don't take sponsors? It's because I'm not beholden. If I do the wrong thing, I don't get the collar yanked by Monsanto, or Goldman Sachs, Jewish Federation. But if I'm doing that with the super chats, then, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If I can't beat the crap out of the super chatters every now and again, and, it's my show. I'm calling the shots. I am in charge here. Super chatter places a hand on my shoulder. Do you feel in charge? Right? But no, I am in charge of the show. We are taking the show back from the super chatter. And they're going to like it. And you know what? They're going to like it. They're going to thank me for it. Because I know what's best for them. It's not a democracy here. It's not some financial democracy where you can buy influence in the show. This is a monarchy. Anyway, Elizabeth Warren says thoughts on Blackwater. Keep up the good work. Blackwater's a defense contractor, right? I don't know if I'm revealing my ignorance here. Is that what that is? Yeah, it's a private military company. I don't really know anything about it. I've heard of it, but I don't really get into those kinds of military-industrial complex specifics. I'm content to just understand the basics of it. Like, yeah, war profiteering is very profitable. Then everybody makes money off of both sides, and they're causing people to go to war so that they accrue money and dominate the world. But I don't really know anything about Blackwater in particular. I just know kind of the gist of it. I know the poll digest, okay? I've seen the same posts. I've seen the same, Facebook comments or whatever. But I don't know anything about Blackwater in particular. I'll have to read up on that. Gen Z Philosophy says, have you heard of Kate Audgeny's new book, Women Get in the Kitchen? Sounds good, right? I love this odd. Am I saying something? I can't read anything anymore because I don't know if I'm... Yeah, that's not a real person. So I don't even know what you're trying to get me to say. It's very trying. Do you see the abuse? Do you see the abuse that I take from my super chatters? The gaslighting, the psychological warfare. This is worse than what they did to Julian Assange. Yeah, okay. Julian Assange was like dizzy all the time and was getting headaches, and they were like frying his brain with, electrons and things. Okay, well, try going on the super chats every night and you don't know if you can read a word because you're saying a Nazi slogan or something, and Jared Holt's vigorously taking notes. So I am truly a victim of a COINTEL operation by the CIA. This has been greenlit. It's just like in The Sopranos, where, you got all the feds working together and they're spying on the Soprano family and, putting in plants. That's how I feel. Constantly subverted. Bill says, would you rather be gay or Jewish? I don't know. That's a tough one. Gay or Jewish? Ethnically Jewish or religiously Jewish? Ethnically, see, if you're ethnically Jewish, you could just become Catholic and then it's like there's no difference. I'd probably say Jewish. Frankly, I would say Jewish because, if you went for homosexual, I don't know if you mean like an active or just like a preferential. Do you mean like a practicing? Do you mean a practicing homosexual, or do you mean just, like tendencies? But either way, that would be a much tougher sell than being a Jew, because if you're an ethnic Jew, you could just become Catholic. And they say, and I don't know if this is true, but they say that if a Jew becomes a Christian, they cease to be a Jew anymore. So is that a cop-out? Is that like cheating? But for that reason, I'm selecting Jewish. Don't read more into that. It's just what it is, okay? Eleutheria Bear says, help, they're turning me into soap. Send money, please. Message retracted. Oh, I will be sending lots of money over. You know what I found out? It's kind of bullshit lately. The other day, I was reading into charity deductions for taxes. They got rid of the charitable deduction. I guess you read about the tax law now, and I'm not a tax professional, but I read that now, because they doubled the standard deduction from $6,000 to $12,000, they changed the way the other deductions work. So now it's all itemized, I guess. And what happens is as opposed to taking charity deductions on top of the standard deduction, it's an either or. So you either take, your business and your charity and other deductions that exceed the standard, or it's not BS. You can't even give to charity anymore, right? All my charity is my tax dollars that are going to all these poor souls in the inner city or whatever. So I can't even give my shekels to the Holocaust Museum as I always intended. Very tragic. Really Good Comics says, you have obtained the staff of nullification. This can be used at any time during the rest of the super chats to end the stream. No strings attached. Thank you. I will wield it responsibly. Yeah, that's the nuclear option. Super chatters, they think, we're going to get a rise on this guy. We own Nick. We could say whatever we want. We'll keep the show going forever. But then they're always... But watch how they recoil when I say I'm just ending the show. We've lost. We are powerless. The game is up. The jig is up. It is all over. He's pressed the big red button and the show is over. And, Now we can no longer get a rise out of him. So thank you. I appreciate this. Zoom says, I'm raising the super chat minimum. Why? Because I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no shit from anyone. I make money how I want. Exactly right. Exactly right. Med mindset. That's how it works. Sirax says, first, great interview with JLP. Happy someone finally pressed him on Trump. I found his take was surprisingly refreshing. I missed some recent shows. Second, I missed some recent shows. Did you get unbanned from Twitch? Looks like it. Yeah, well, thanks on the JLP interview. I don't feel like I pressed him too hard, but, we obviously have a different perspective on that. But, I think Jesse Lee Peterson is right. He said basically what I've been saying for the longest time, which is, look, and maybe you need a little refresher, a little reminder. Politics is zero sum. You get two options. You get Trump or you get literal devil worshippers, okay? And Trump might be, co-opted by devil worshippers, but he's not a devil worshipper, as far as we know. So it's either we elect Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg. If it's a binary choice between a bad one and a good one, between somebody who's righteous and somebody who isn't, I think that kind of makes it more simple, And we obviously say these things, and I made that clear from the beginning. I probably will come around in the end. I've always said that ultimately, when it comes down to the general election, I'll probably pull the lever for Trump. But at this point in time, I think it's useful to say we're not going to vote for him. I think there's a utility in saying we're undecided, we're agnostic, and not for any other reason other than to get the attention of people like Brad Parscale, Don Jr., maybe then they'll exert a little bit more control. Maybe then there'll be a little uncertainty because, look, he's got an 80, 90% approval rating within the GOP, and he thinks he's going to sail into 2020 with no problems, win re-election, the base is happy, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case. And I don't know if we'd be necessarily satisfied if we did that without any kind of course correction. So, but I understand where he's coming from, and I appreciate his perspective. I think, Jesse Lee Peterson's a good guy, and at the end of the day, I don't think we agree on that. We don't agree on everything, right? We don't agree on the Israel thing. I don't think we totally agree on Trump, and obviously he's non-denominational Christian, but that really doesn't matter. Jesse Lee Peterson, I talk to him, and I get a good energy. I have a good rapport with him. After the interview, I feel good. I have the sense that he is a good man, and I feel better for having talked to him. There's a warmth about it. And, people might say that's a silly thing, or maybe that's intangible or goofy or whatever. But I don't think the same can be said about a lot of people on the alt-right, frankly. A lot of people say, well, what's the difference between you and some of these other guys? Frankly, I think it really is the Christian component. I think where I come from, and where Jesse Lee Peterson and E. Michael Jones, and again, people we don't agree with on everything with, but I think where we're coming from is a place of love. We're coming from it from the perspective of we want to do something because it is right. We want to do what is righteous. And I think people on this other side, there's always something going on. There's some dysfunction, there is some kind of weird hate or anger or whatever. And you know what I'm talking about. These characters, they might be funny or they might be really smart or well-read or whatever. Maybe they're more on the money on the issues than JLP. It might have more overlap with them. But there's this negativity. There's this dark cloud that hangs over them. And I don't believe that's a coincidence. I believe in things like this. I believe in that kind of gut feeling. I think that's more real than ideological agreements. I would take 100 JLPs over 100 of people that maybe we agree more, but you have that kind of weird, dark vibe that's sort of off-putting, that rubs people the wrong way. It's sort of hollow and makes you feel bad on the inside. People are always angry and they're literally people trying to be like Hitler. I see all these people, they give speeches and they're trying so hard to puff up their chests and be the angriest one and, be the most aggrieved. And it's like, there's something about that which is just, I think people realize this. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it's kind of off-putting. There's a very bad vibe that comes from that. And even people that can relate to these issues, I think they can wrap their head around the idea that maybe they're, talking about issues that resonate, but there's just something off about, this group or a certain group. So I think that it's always important to remember that these things, I think, are the most important. Being righteous, being consistent with God. And I think JLP reminded me of that. So it was a very good interview. It really, I think, added something. I think it was an interview which I don't like to do interviews a lot because I feel like it feels like it's obligatory. It's like, oh, so I'm going to ask you about what you talk about on your show every day, right? But I feel like that show was generative. I think it was a good feeling. It was good vibes. It was good entertainment. So that's the kind of vibes that we need going into 2019, 2020. That's the movement we need. That's the only movement that will survive. That's the only spirit that is inconquerable, by the way. People like that, people that are righteous and they're consistent with what God is all about, these are the only people that cannot be beaten. These are the people that will survive. These other people that are corrupt and sick and dysfunctional and whatever, and not that we're not all sinners, but, people that there's that kind of negativity, that darkness, these people are not going to survive. I don't think they will be the ones to deliver the new country. Something important to remember. On the second point, missing the recent shows, getting unbanned from Twitch. Yeah, I did get unbanned from Twitch. I don't know if I want to disclose. I don't know if I want to disclose my tactical genius. I'm so smart when it comes to this stuff. I'm just unparalleled, okay? So, look, I guess I'll just be straightforward with you. When I said I got banned from Twitch last month, I was omitting a key detail. I was suspended for 30 days. I went out and I said, I got banned from Twitch because my channel was disappeared. But it said, you're suspended for 30 days. Now, the reason I said that, it's not a lie. No. Not a lie. I just omitted a key detail. That's not a lie. The reason I said that is because if I come out on April 4th and I say, I was banned from 30 days, well, what's going to happen? Destiny, all these people, they're going to set their reminder, set their timer. May 5th, we're going to come and we're going to bombard his channel again. But if it's just like, I say I'm banned indefinitely and people kind of forget about it for 30 days, 30 days is a long time. In the internet community, people forget about it. Everybody moves on, and then my channel quietly reappears. Then it's like nobody has a problem. Then I'm good in the hood. So yeah, my channel's back, baby. Just some, 4-dimensional chess going on. You say to yourself all the time, Nick, how do you think 4D chess is possible? I'm playing it every day. I'm playing it every day in 4 dimensions at all times. So deception, subterfuge, sometimes we have to engage in it. We have to engage in selective truth-telling and omission. But you know what? Twitch is gay. I'm not even going to stream on Twitch. You want to know something? DLive. Outside of the fact that it's such a better platform than Twitch for like a million reasons, Twitch, every person that donates to you, you get half. So they donate $5 to you, you get $2.50, okay? And you make, the currency that they use is called bits. So a viewer will tip you in bits. They'll tip you 5 bits. You know how much a bit is worth? A penny. So you'll get a donation that's like 5 pennies, and Twitch takes half. Okay? The payouts are after 45 days, after you pass the $100 threshold. So it's like, eventually you accumulate $100, you've raised $200 in pennies, and you make $100, and then it takes 45 days for them to send you the money. With DLive, it's totally different. They have the Lino points, which come in smaller denominations too, but I get much bigger donations on there than I ever did on Twitch for whatever reason. They only take 10% as opposed to 50%, and the payouts are every 2 weeks. So you get paid off, and the threshold is $50. So it's all the way better. And there's really marginal difference. Streaming is streaming. It's no different. You post a link on Twitter, people show up, so it's no different. It's also not saturated like Twitch is. There's room for mobility there. And the other day, and this floored me more than anything else. This is why I'm a DLive man. I'm a DLive company man now. I welcome our Chinese tech overlords now, If it's a scam, it's epic. It's the best scam ever. I get an email the other day out of a clear blue sky from somebody at the DLive team. He's like, hey, I'm so-and-so from DLive. I saw that you haven't been streaming lately. What can we do to help you stream again? Is there a reason? Can I do anything to help you? We want to see you stream again. Sincerely, so-and-so. And I was like, this is incredible. Of course, I've been streaming, but I set up, the problem I was having is that I had my official account, which I did several big streams on. And what happened is that my channel got flagged as X-rated. So long story short, it got flagged as X-rated. I couldn't get this flag removed, and what that did was prevented me from appearing on the front page of the website. So I was like, I can't turn off this X rating. If I don't appear on the front page, I can't get new viewers. So I said, I'll just start a new channel while I wait for that to get resolved, or if it can't get resolved, at least I'll have another one. So I started a new channel and started streaming off of that so I could be on the front page. So I guess they saw my main account and they said, oh, this guy hasn't streamed in like weeks. What's the problem? But I was streaming. But anyway, that's why he said that. So I replied and I said, and this was like at 9 o'clock. I was like, hey, yeah, I haven't been streaming because of this X rating problem. I love DLive, but I can't get this flag removed, and it's kind of an issue. He replied within 60 minutes in the evening at 9 or 10 o'clock. Done. Fixed it, and I will continue to monitor the situation. You can hit me up on Discord. Let me know if you need any help. I was like, what? I have never been treated this way before. I'm used. It's like when a city dweller goes out to the South and people are like, hi, how are you? Because we're used as content creators to just getting like kicked in the stomach and punched in the face by our overlords. We make all this money for Google and Twitch, and they're like, yeah, F you, you suck, you're a racist. We're used to doing Twitch streams when we make money and we advertise Twitch. And they kick us in the balls for fun and pee on us, and they say, oh, you suck, you're a little baby. We run this town, And then you go on DLive, and they're like, hi, how are you? We've got complimentary bread. Would you like some bread? Hi, how about a hot towel? Hi, how about you want us to make you dinner or something? How about a hot shower? You can sleep in the bed. It's gonna be fine. It's like, what? Where am I? Have I died and gone to streamer heaven? So you know what? Twitch, gay. DLive is my new best friend. Twitch is canceled. You know what? Twitch, you don't want me on your stream? F you! I don't want to be on Twitch. Your platform is gay and paused and it sucks. I'm going on DLive. We don't need Twitch anymore. You want Twitch? You know what? You can have it. Twitch is gay. All right, DLive is my new favorite streaming service, okay? So we're on DLive exclusively. You know what, Twitch? You give me my account back. Thanks, but no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. I got a new bitch now, okay? As the saying goes, hoes mad. Anyway, sorry for the vulgarity, but it gets me fired up. It gets me fired up the way, workers like me are abused. It really comes down to a workers' rights issue. This is when are the unions, when are the regulatory agencies going to step up and protect me? I get fired up about this, workers' comp, things of this nature. So, apologize for the vulgarity, the middle fingers. That's so uncharacteristic. That's so unlike me. But you know what? Twitch deserves it. I think everybody can agree they deserve a hearty middle finger, a hearty F you. So you're welcome. You're welcome for conveying this. Let's see. Wow, we got like 10,000 more super chats. America Only says, hopefully everyone who wants to win is following the 7 baby steps so we can secure the something for our children. Definitely, my man. I love when the boomers learn the Wignat lingo, so you get the absolute worst of both worlds. You get some kind of cringy, esoteric message, and it's also a message that'll get you banned if you say it, so perfect marriage there. Top says, do you fear hair loss, Nick? It attacks unexpectedly. Not really. I mean, my family has pretty good hair, so I'm not too worried. I think, I'm not really concerned about that at all. Everybody in my mom's side has good hair. My dad's side has good hair. And, people say, oh, Nick, your hairline, it looks like your hair is thinning. This is just my hairline. If you go back and if you watch the NickJFuentes show, which I did in high school, the hairline is like unchanged. Because people say that enough and you're like, well, is it? Am I having trouble with that? But you look back, I look back to when I'm a baby. I have the same hairline. I look back to when I'm in high school, middle school. That's just it's just the hairline, I guess that's the widow's peak as opposed to male pattern baldness. So, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a concern, as everything is a concern, but not imminently. I'm not like losing sleep over it. And you know what? If I lose my hair, I'll just do what Elon Musk did. Elon Musk was terrible, and now his hair looks great. I guess he got a hair transplant or something. So I'll just do that. or I'll just gracefully go bald, like Tony Soprano. There's a lot of fine, bald men in history. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. It would be a very big blow to my ego, I will tell you. Because for years, I would brag about having hair when all these old people didn't have hair. I remember when people would make me mad. I had this jag-off teacher in high school who would, he would really rile me up, and he was bald. So I would just make it a point to touch my hair when I was around him to be like, haha, I'm young, you're old. I have hair, you're an ugly old man. So it would be my just desserts if I went bald, I guess. So it'd be tough to deal with. But I'm not concerned about it in the short term. Good genes, we got good genetics, so nothing to worry about. Reckoning says streaming on unauthorized.tv with Vox and Owen. I actually talked to Vox Day this morning. Actually, it's funny. He was calling me from an outside number. He was calling me from I don't know if do people know where he lives? He was calling me from a European number, and for a few days I was like, I don't recognize this number. It's block. And then today I was like, wait a second. Phone solicitors don't call from Europe. I'm thinking, oh, unrecognized number. It's a phone solicitor. I'm just gonna hang up. But then I was like, wait a second. I don't think phone solicitors are calling me from that country. So I picked it up. I was like, oh, this is probably Vox. So I was like, hey, and it was Vox Day. And we talked a little while. And we basically agreed that, I don't want to give away all the details, but we basically worked out a deal where we will form a partnership perhaps sometime in the future. It doesn't really work right now because I'm kind of set, in terms of I'm not really having a lot of trouble with streaming right now, and it really wouldn't make sense for me to transition at this stage. But we did make the connection, and I think we formed a good relationship, so who knows, maybe in the future. But I like Vox Day a lot. I think he's a great guy. He was one of the people that red-pilled me initially, actually. I read his blog, Vox Populi, for years, When 16, he was one of the people that originally red-pilled me on a lot of things, and I think he's right on the money. On Jordan Peterson, on Catholicism, he was always kind of there, saying all the right stuff. I've watched his dark streams periodically, so I'm a big fan. It's good to talk to him. John Public says, hey, Nick, I've been subscribed for 2 months, but the premium tab on your website is still empty for me. I'll email you about it again. I love supporting the show, but I need that premium content, big guy. Yeah, I've seen this, I don't know, a couple of people email me with this issue. It's an issue with your browser. People expect me to be like tech support. It's not complicated. You log into the website, and it's just embedded YouTube videos. It's not like, some high-tech enterprise. It's embedded YouTube videos on a page. If it's not loading, it's probably because of your Flash player, or it's because of your browser, or try on Internet Explorer, or try on, another browser, try on mobile or something. But odds are, if you're having trouble with that, it's on your end. I don't know. People are expecting me to go to their house and I can't even figure out my own computer issues. People are like, why is my browser not loading? That's kind of your deal, because on my end it's fine. It's embedded YouTube links. It's not I don't think, I'll ask my web dev guy about it, but I'm 99% sure that's probably on your end. So try and load it up on mobile, or another browser. Try it on a number of different ways. If you continue to have the problem, then let me know. If not, then just, use the links. Okay, people call me boomer tech, okay? But I'll check it out. Morningstar says, how does a woke Christian defend Joseph and his grain scheme in Genesis? It seems unbelievably Jewish to me. Don't you dare dodge this question. I love this. Don't you dare. The grain scheme. Grain scheme. Was that when Joseph... Is that in Genesis, or is that... Yeah, that is in Genesis. What, he goes to Egypt and he's captured, and what does he do? He tells the Pharaoh about the harvest or something, and he says, you're going to have a good harvest, and he's proven right, and the Pharaoh's like, you're the man. Something to that effect. I don't know. I don't see how that's particularly pernicious. It's been a long time since I read that one. It's been a long time since I read that one. But, so I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm not eminently familiar with all the details. He was in prison, right? And then he had these, he interpreted dreams or he made predictions or something. And then he's like, you know what? You're my guy. You're my right-hand man, and he predicted that there's going to be a rough harvest, so he should store the grain or something like that effect. Is that what you're talking about? Is that the story? Pardon me for my biblical literacy. I know my Catholics are going to get on me. Fake Catholic. He doesn't know it by heart. Yeah, I don't know them all by heart yet, all right? I read the Bible in its entirety like a year ago. Sheesh. For crying out loud. But I don't think that's a particularly bad scheme. And anyway, all these people about dodging questions, this is not a cop-out to say that anything that God does literally cannot be wrong because God is the only thing that's moral. You know, people are like, I don't have any morality, but that seems wrong to me. So, idiot, dummy, question's a total non-starter. How does somebody divinely inspired, he seems like he's doing something wrong, according to what standard? Don't have morality without God. How does that work? You know, it's like when atheists are like, God is really evil. Says who? Says you? What are you, the authority on what's right and wrong? So that's why, you know, people ask about the particulars, and it's like, I'm uninterested in the particulars. I'm uninterested in the minutia and these semantic debates that people have been having for centuries. It's about the broad strokes. It's about, do you believe in God? Do you believe in the resurrection? If so, it kind of completes the whole system, okay? It's the key to everything. You can pour over, there's a 1,000-page book, and it's 1,000,000 years old and all this, and we're going to find every little thing, and we're going to debate for years. Or we can just, you know, think about the broad strokes here, and it kind of justifies the rest. Don't you dare dodge. Don't you dare talk to me like that. Lowly super chatter. Who do you think you are? David Sperner says, Nick Fuentes, I'm in charge. Gay super chatters. Do you feel in charge? For real, though, big guy, ignore the infiltrators as best you can. I'm trying. But I'm trying real hard. Temple Drake says, is your sister, who is stunning, by the way, as feisty as you? Who is more likely to win in an argument? Well, thanks. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, she's pretty feisty. She's actually tougher than me. Honestly, I don't know. I say that's what all men say. You know, men. She would hate me for that because she's kind of on this like girl power streak lately. So she would hate me for saying something so patronizing. You know, that woman's actually tougher than me. You know, we all know. It's like, is that really true? But it's true. You know, when we were kids, we would always fight. And I'm somebody who I'm not a very malicious person. We would get in a fight, and I was just kind of a prankster. I was sort of a jokester. I would pull a prank on her. I would kind of do malicious things, I guess. You know, I don't want to go into it, but I was kind of a jerk when I was a youngster. I was a troublemaker. You know, when she would get mad, she would just, it was like in the movie Finding Nemo when the shark smells blood and his eyes go black and he just goes ballistic. That's what would happen. She would like want to kill you, okay? So I would play like a fun little joke and she would be like, okay, I have to kill you now, you know? And we would get in fights. I was never like, I'm going to deliver damage. I'd be like, okay, this is fun. I like to roughhouse, whatever. But she would be like vicious, okay? There were a couple of times when I had to go Nicko mode on her. You know, one time I built up, I was just thinking about this the other day. It's funny you mention it. One time I was in the basement and I was a big Lego guy. And I built up this, I spent 3 days, like the whole 3 days building up this Lego crane. You know, like a construction crane. It was this big thing. It was like 1,000 pieces. I spent 3 days on it. And I just completed it. I'm like playing with it. And my sister comes bouncing one of those big bouncy balls that you like get from Target. You know, those big, they're like tie-dye or whatever. And I'm like, hey, could you please not bounce that so close to my crane? I just finished working on this. Seems like a reasonable request, doesn't it? She takes the ball, boom, throws it right at the crane. The thing like explodes. And like that was a moment where I'm like, okay, game on. Now you messed with me. Now you pissed me off. Now it's personal. And so I was like, you know, so that made me mad. So, you know, you cross lines, and then you know, you get crazy Nick. Then you get Nicko mode. But generally speaking, she's pretty feisty. She's pretty tough. But who's more likely to win in an argument? Probably me. Frankly, probably me. God, look, I got to tell you, I'm a pretty good arguer, okay? I think I argue pretty well. So I would have to say probably me. She doesn't really like to argue, though. She's kind of... you know, we'll get into it and she'll be like, whatever, you know, so. But that's a sister. She's great. Josh Sayre says, state-enforced homosexuality. Bruv, this is what we're getting from a right-wing nationalist. I can't imagine what President Buttigieg is going to do. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the only calculation that matters when it comes to the election. Charlie says, thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not kill equals Lolbert. Well, it's not totally that, because, the Bible really says don't murder and don't be a thief. I don't think it says anything about taxes. That's the thing. Libertarians like to extrapolate things into absolutes, but there really are no absolutes in life, or they're few and far between. We find in the Bible, for example, where people say, well, it's contradictory. It's really a matter of applying different things in different circumstances. And so, for example, thou shalt not steal. A libertarian can take this and say, oh, that means you can never, take anything from anybody for any reason. Well, is that really what it's saying? Or can we really understand it means, don't steal, right? Don't kill. Does that mean you can never take the life of a person ever? Or does it mean don't murder somebody for no reason, unjustly, whatever? I think it's, pretty common sense stuff there. Of course, people are killed in the Bible all the time for righteous reasons, and there's no problem. And Aquinas, Augustine were in favor of the death penalty, and Aquinas talked about just war, and you had the Crusades, and on and on. So it's you got to apply a little practicality, a little common sense in there, as opposed to these abstractions. David Spurner says 1 minute in, and losers have sent this chats. Sad. No, I like it. I like when they send them in. Theo says, as I recall, you love to go off, but I never thought you would take it this far. What do I know? What do we know? Damn, these niggas got me. I was just listening to that song today, actually. Very red-pilled song, very red-pilled song. What does Kanye say? I hate these nibbas more than the Nazis. About the paparazzi, he says. He says, the paparazzi, I hate these N-words more than the Nazis. What does that tell you? Based in red-pilled Kanye West. Hates the media, he hates the Lugan press, and he is a based Aryan, National Socialist. No, I'm joking of course, but hey, who knows, right? Great song, so true. I drive around listening to that song, and it's so relatable. Flashing lights, talking about the paparazzi, the troubles of fame. I relate to this. Kanye, I got you, man. I understand. I relate to all his music because I am a famous influencer. I am an artist, okay? I am a narcissist. So the music is made for me. People ask, how can you listen to that? You're clearly not famous, not a genius, not a visionary, an artist, okay? You're not a narcissist, okay? You simply do not have the capacity to understand what's happening. You need to listen to music for the masses, okay? But Kanye is the music for the visionaries. Mr. Mayhem says, if you write a book, I will buy it. I want to write a book when I have something to say. Steve says, Hail Nick, full of grace. No, blasphemy. I will not entertain this, trying to pervert the Nicene Creed with some knicker interjection with some kind of wordplay using the America First vocabulary. Blasphemy, we cannot allow it. Zypher says, we all know what governing ethic you use in Stellaris. Also convert to Chick-fil-A. Jesus said, this is the rock upon which I will build my fast food. Yeah, I got a gift card at Chick-fil-A. I got to go back there. I don't know. For whatever reason, I got exposed to Chick-fil-A later in life, and I've never really got on board with it to the same extent. So, I don't know, it's just like a different feel than McDonald's. It's closed on Sunday. It's not open until midnight. The reason really why I get McDonald's is that it's open at midnight. It's open at 1 a.m. And same with White Castle. Do you think anybody voluntarily just really loves White Castle? Sometimes you get a craving, but it's open all the time. Chick-fil-A, what do they close at 7 o'clock, and they're open 3 days a week, and there's all these rules. You got to say you got to genuflect before you go in. It's I just want it to be quick and easy, like it is with McDonald's. But I like Chick-fil-A. I guess I got to go back. And yeah, you know what governing ethic I use in Stellaris. I think I use xenophobia and spiritualism, which I'm finding the xenophobia not the best one to use because the game kind of has a very important diplomatic component and. Realizing in the mid-game that this governing ethic precludes you from being friendly with anybody, it's maybe that was the wrong choice. Maybe we should have done something else there. Should have went for less of a meme governing ethic. But, I made my choices. I've made my peace with this. Italian Pal says, hey, Nick, always appreciate your foreign policy takes, which are different than a lot of others in the dissident right. Do you recommend any books on foreign policy that you've read? Yeah, I recommend World Order by Henry Kissinger. I recommend World Order by Kissinger. I'm trying to think which ones really red-pilled me, because it's been years since I've really read something in depth about foreign policy. World Order by Kissinger. I would read The Coming Anarchy by Kaplan. I would read, what's the other one? There's a few good other ones, but I can't really remember. It's been so long. Those are a couple off the top of my head. To me, the best way to get perspective is to read the 4 Cold War, post-Cold War treatises or doctrines, which is End of History by Fukuyama, Tragedy of Great Power Politics by Mearsheimer, Kaplan's Coming Anarchy. What's the 4th one? Mearsheimer, Fukuyama, Kaplan. There's one other one. What's the other one? I totally forget. Fukuyama, Kaplan, Mearsheimer, and no, I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank here. My apologies, but I would start with that. It's on my bookshelf. Maybe that'll remind me. Yes, it is. The Clash of Civilizations by Sam Huntington. Absolutely essential. That one as well. I'm trying to think, is there anything else up there? So those 4 are a great start. World Order by Kissinger is terrific. I think it's great. Yeah, other than that, I can't really think of anything. Smelly says, you like McDonald's? Wait till you try cigars, man. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. David Spurner says, Dear Diary, my mom yelled at me for screaming the N-word too often. Asian GF said no to me when I courted in the Nat Sock outfit. Alt loser shill chats. Yeah, that is what the alt losers say. Lauren Rose says, New America First merch, weightlifting belts. That's hilarious, dude. That's hilarious. We're going to get America First themed Tums. We're going to get America First themed. Well, what do they call that? What's the generic term for that? Antacids. America First themed antacids, and something that aids in fast food consumption, something like that. Smelly says, you used to have a sharp jawline. Go chew gum, big guy. I do have a sharp jawline. I just haven't shaved, all right? What are you talking about? I have a great jawline. Everybody's negging me. It's all negs. All nastiness all day. Nothing but negativity. It's the devil trying to keep me down. I still have a sharp jawline. What are you talking about? My facial composition is unchanged. You're just jealous. You're just jealous I have a profound and strong jawline. Sebastian says the based Finns party became second in the last election and the other mainstream parties just excluded them from the government completely. Oh, based. Lauren Rose says, looking a little bloated, big guy. What the heck? What's going on? Your hair is on point tonight, though. Nice little forehead curl you've got rocking. Keep up the hard work. The poop chatters bust your balls because we love you. I am not bloated. Eric says, hi, Nick. I'm a recent graduate of Ouagadougou University. You misspelled it, by the way. That's a real place. I studied African politics in college. I know. Capital of Burkina Faso. People think I make things up. But he graduated from Ouagadougou University with an advanced degree in AI and robotics. How can I maximize my coworkers' cultural experience? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a great question. West Motorstein says, hope things are well. Enjoying a rare live stream during finals week. Have some wagey tithes. Thoughts on going to law school? Keep doing what you do. I could never do that, but I don't know. I guess if you've got a plan. Do I look like a guy with a plan? If you got a plan to become a lawyer and make money, then yeah, but it's a lot of school. It's a big expense if you're just going to be, on your ass in so many years, right? So I would make sure you have something lined up, I guess, or make sure you know what you're doing. But thanks. Leo says, hey, Nick, did you see Bernie use the word usury today? Not sure he is the best spokesperson, but I like to see that word used a lot more. Yeah, I totally agree. It was good to see him use that. It's good to see that enter the lexicon. Eric says, Nick, what is a more masculine name, Ian or Tyler? I don't know. Tyler, I guess. I don't. They're not. Neither of them are really names I would go in for. I would go in for an Italian name. Okay. MD says, I knew we had to fight and die for our greatest ally when I saw those 5 Israeli agents cheering on the firefighters during 9/11. Truly inspiring. Yeah, when I saw all those Dancing Israelis on the rooftops, cheering on the firefighters. Yes, I too was red-pilled on this question. Rob says, nice take on the coffee question last night. My father cannot operate with his 2 or 3 cups in the morning. You don't want to get dependent. Also very based in red pill with the occasional monster. I only have ever had 2 in my whole life, but, desperate times, right? Yeah, it's true. My parents are like that. They're like coffee. We got to have we have a cup of coffee in the morning, cup of coffee in the afternoon. Always with the coffee. Why? Just got to be energized, high energy, Mine says, MAGA making AIDS great again. Be excited, Goy. Yeah, it's really great. Aunt Bessie says, hey, Nick, how can I red pill my pet dog? Get him to watch the 6-hour documentary. Levi says, I think instead of Nickers, you should use, or you should call us NickJFuentes. Cringe. America says, degenerates can now die off with no children. More minorities are butt buddies and carpet munchers who are like carpet baggers. No more kids for them. Hot take from America only. Yeah, there's some truth in that. Spruce Frost says, I'm getting really black-pilled about the pee-pee poo-poo situation. Yeah, me too. Unforgivable says, loved your appearance on the Daily Brap last night. That's a doppelganger, but yeah. Lauren Rose says, loved your new premium show interview with Review Bra. Oh, thank you. Depute says, the U.S. is not a country, but an international marketplace. Wow, that's a really fresh take. I've never heard that one before. Rando says, Nick, you cake boy, you blocked me on Twitter for a joke? What the heck? Yeah, I blocked you. I've blocked more than 5,000 people. I feel nothing. I am inevitable. So yeah, I block people. Jokes, no jokes. Look, it's very simple. If you don't follow me and you reply to me and it's not praise, I block. If you follow me and you reply to me and it's at my expense and I don't find it funny, then I block. I have 40,000 followers, all right? You think it bothers me to block somebody who follows me? It's nothing to me. It's nothing to me. I used to be, when I was 300 follower, blocking somebody who follows me is like, oh, you can't do that. But now, it's nothing to me. I block followers all the time. In fact, I do it just to prove to myself that I can continue to do it. No, yeah, I block. I block indiscriminately. Maybe you should have thought before you made that joke. Cake boy. What is that supposed to mean? Josh says, as gay as Trump has been, he has been and caused part of a complete paradigm shift. Tired take, but the Overton window is completely shifted on immigration, trade, media, culture wars. Impressive. Yeah, I agree. That's why he's always been a net positive. What happened? I guess like the internet connection went out because our viewership just dropped like 300 out of nowhere. I don't know what happened, but whatever. Anand says, you are merely a jester for us super chatters. Yeah, okay. Keep paying up then, I guess, right? YB says, only the pee-pee poo-poo owns this show, Nick. Yeah, great. Smelly says, how to say N-word like a chat and what car you drive. Thank you. Fish says, will you sell a Nick Fuentes Catboy Daki Makura? What is a Daki? What does that mean? Oh, like a body pillow? We should. I would buy one. Hey, I would buy one. It would help. I think that would help a little bit. Yeah, I would go in for one of those. That would help the hermit life a little bit. Yeah, I'll talk to my friend Simon Sasquatch. Maybe we'll get on that. We'll have to design it. Who will be the inspiration for the Catboy Daki Makura? Who will be the inspiration? Who will be the prototype? Who will be the Django Fett to serve as the model for the body pillow? Will it be? I don't know. I've been following a lot of Catboys lately. Been following my man, the B-Boy. Been following my man, Astro Gentile. I've been following STEM. Not been happy with STEM lately. Not happy with STEM. Not one bit. But who is the Catboy? Who's going to be the model for the body pillow? I don't know. That's a good question. But we'll have to talk to Simon. We'll have to get that in the works. We already have, what do we have? Clown World panties. On that website, we have the Daily Brap panties, or the Weekly Sweat panties. So, I don't know, anime is Catholic, so it's all fine and well. It's all acceptable. Turkish says, please unban me on Twitter at Curved Sword. Probably not, but yeah, I'll look into it once I once I finish the show. At Curved Sword. You probably said something dumb and blue-pilled, and I blocked you. Level says, thank you for your hard work, Nick. Never give up. I am such a hard worker. Thank you. I will never give up. Larry says, favorite non-white reactionary? Me. I'm my favorite non-white reactionary. Eric says, Nick, any relation to politician Lupe Fuentes? Not that I'm aware of, no. It's a pretty common last name. Zoom says, shit, here we go again. Yeah, that's my feeling every day. People are like, why does it take 15 minutes for the show to start? It's me looking in the mirror. It's me looking in the mirror like this. And bags under my eyes, bloodshot. Shit, here we go again. That's every night before the show, fixing my hair, doing my tie. Cigarette hanging out of my mouth. I'm drinking heavily. Here we go again. Super chatters again, right? Kidding. I'm just kidding. Let's see. Mizer says, is Aryan your favorite pony? What is that even? I don't even know what that means. Maddie says, do not trust the eternal bug man of the East. Exactly. I agree. Propaganda says, if you let weeds grow in the garden, do you end up with a garden full of weeds? It's true. Very true. Good analogy. Ian says, $2 for your copay to see an allergist. You're welcome. Thank you. I saw an allergist. They figured it out. It's a dog. It's the seasonal stuff. And they're like, well, you can do the over-the-counter stuff where you can take shots. I'm like, I'm not taking shots. I don't trust it. And they give me anxiety. I get a vaccination. I get a shot, and I faint, and I don't like it. So I will never do that ever again in my whole life. YB says, the pee-pee poo-poo lobby owns you. Yeah, okay. Josh Sayre says, this knicker cries out as he knifes you. That's true. Mr. Nick Town says, thanks for the big show, big guy. I 100% agree with expressing our ongoing expectations for the Trump administration. Very important. Yes, I agree. Dissonant Texas plot twist. This entire show, the super chats in the channel, are a figment of Nick's imagination. Every night his parents hear muffled rants from the basement about Jewish power and pee-pee poo-poo. You got to wonder, is it a Shutter Island type scenario? Am I really so successful, or is it all just some delusion? Am I a brain in a vat? What could it possibly be? I don't know. Jonathan says, nickerness is next to godliness. The biggest guy in the sky is smiling at you, bro. I hope so. We hope so. That's what matters. That's the one we care about. MD Extreme says, interview Steven Anderson. Yeah, maybe I'll have him on the show. Netlux says, hey, Nick, really need to get in touch with you for a professional collaboration and interview if possible. Should I email you? Yeah, email me. Please email me. I would love to hear your proposal. njfuentesblog@gmail.com. Just send me an email. No promises, but I'll read it. I'll see what you got to offer. All these business proposals. I'm a lone wolf. What don't people understand? I'm a lone wolf, all right? No entanglements, no foreign entanglements. I do my own thing. I'm like Dean Martin in the Rat Pack. I can be a part of a group. I can be a part of a posse, but I'm my own man. I'm always my own thing, okay? So the way it has to be. Aaron says, what's your Twitch name? NickJFuentes. Anonymous Tipper says, starting a YouTube channel, how did you reduce reverberation with your Yeti / improve your audio video? Love the show. You motivated me to start a channel. Yikes! I try to tell people not to start channels, but hey, if you've already done it, I'm powerless to stop you. I don't encourage people to start it for a variety of reasons, which I'm too tired to get into. But with the Yeti microphone, you got to set it to cardioid, and you also got to, what is the other setting? Got to adjust your gain a little bit. What is the other? Yeah, it's that, and it's the gain. Look, really the key is that you just have to talk directly into it. The mic is set up where you can't talk in the top of it or behind it. You got to talk into the face of it, and you got to select the right setting. Typically, I think cardioid works the best. You got to adjust the gain, and also you got to adjust your software. But really, you just got to take a day and figure it out. That's what I did. I was having a lot of issues when I put this on the boom. When I put this on the boom arm, so I got my Yeti still, but I put it on a boom arm, and I was having those issues. So one day I said, I'll just put it up there, and I'll just manipulate it and test it, see what the best result is. So you got to do that. Same with video. It's really just a matter of playing with it. But I wish you luck. Tanya says, love the JLP interview, and I like the support. Good to hear. Devoured says, Nick, love the show. Your recent episodes are great. Also, you're looking a little thin. You should eat more Big Macs and not go to the gym ever. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like it's perfect. 100%. Mehdi says the bad vibe you described from Wignats is 100% true. Not only is it not persuasive to the people we need, but it makes future persuasion much harder, and all to satisfy a knuckle dragger's ego. Hashtag bully wigs. It's just a bad vibe. And it's not even like, at the end of the day, a consequentialist argument of it's not persuasive. It's just not something you want to be a part of. Its toxicity is very real. I know that that's like a left-wing term. Left-wing people say, oh, that's toxic or whatever. But I think it's true. Toxic people do exist. They're people that will bring you down. They're negative. They are chronically failing in life. And not because, people have failures, but through character flaws or through bad attitude. That's the kind of thing you have to avoid. People that bring you down, people that are sort of poison in your life, that totally exists. I'm a big believer that, Sam Hyde talks about this and Charles talks about this. They're so right. Got to cut these people out. Got to minimize your exposure to people like that, because that kind of thing is contagious. Who you surround yourself with, that's kind of how your mentality is. That's kind of how you are. So you get involved with the wrong crowd, and they can really damage your soul, damage your attitude, your outlook. So you can't hang around with losers. Losers hang around with losers. You got to surround yourself with people that are positive, make you feel good, and not feel good like, they gas you up, but feel good like there's a warmth, that they're righteous and self-sufficient and, have self-respect and all that. Let's see. Anand says, tell the dude to disable ad block to see premium. Dude to disable ad block. What? Oh. That's the issue he's having. Disable ad block, and then he can see when you're having the issue. Oh, that's a good tip. Maybe I'll send that over email. Seth Rich says, what is your D-Live name? NickJFuentes. The Lone Slav says, you think we could ever follow the example of the Amish and create our own theocratic colonies? No. I mean, theoretically it's possible, but I've seen it in like a handful of cases, and I don't know if that's scalable, but it's worth trying. I've seen, people are trying this, and it is having some degree of success, but is that a lasting solution? I think that's the question. But worth trying. God's Plan says, the feel when you realize so much of what you used to find funny was actually just making fun of white people. So true. And Hero says, pee-pee poo-poo. Thanks. Justin says, great interview with JLP. Any more people you'd like to interview in the future? Nope. I don't like to do interviews, but, people bust my balls about it every night, and I'm like, okay, fine. And the JLP people reached out to me, and they're like, can you come on your show? And I was like, well, if you're offering, I guess, but I don't really like to do interviews. Billy says, America first, chastity belts. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Big guy, I don't know. Steve Z says, imagine spending $500 to see Nick Fuentes and Faith Goldie at Ameren instead of getting a bunch of has-been boomers. Oof. Hey, don't critique the lineup. It's a good lineup. You got Patrick Casey. You got James Alsop. You got Jared Taylor. You got Derbyshire. That's a good lineup. Those are very solid people. You got Lana Lotkef, and I haven't checked it. There might be new people, but I think it's a fine lineup. Those are great people, and it's a great event. You get to meet all kinds of solid people, and I think it'll be a blast regardless. I don't think I make or break the conference, but I was disappointed I couldn't go. I really, it wasn't something that I was like, I look forward to that. I think it's a great conference, and a lot of my friends are going, and it's a great opportunity to speak and connect with people, but I just, it was a tough decision, but couldn't make it happen this year. It is what it is. That's the way things are these days, but yeah, it's going to be a good lineup regardless. Max Carson says, how do you feel about AIM? I like AIM. I think they got good optics, but I just think those kinds of organizations are kind of on the outs, frankly. I think, and look, I love Patrick Casey. I think he's a great guy. Very talented, very mature, which is so what we need, and competent and smart, and I like him a lot. And I like AIM. I think they've got the right look. And if you're going to join any organization, you should join AIM. My long-term outlook on organizations like that is just not optimistic. I think that in the long term, white identity politics is the answer. And maybe something like that could gain traction in like 30 years. But at the moment, when they're persecuting everybody online, the payment processors, like across the board, it just seems like, I don't know, it just seems like that's not going to be very viable in the future. And the same applies to my show, frankly. The same applies to things like American Renaissance. I think a lot of these modes of organization that are traditional and that we use for a long time are coming to the point where they're becoming impossible to do effectively and that will advance a cause. Maybe they're even becoming a liability. So that's all. That's my only. I guess that's the drawback of these kinds of things, is they're forcing us underground. So AIM will be a good thing, though, I think, because even if they get forced totally underground, they'll still be a force for good, networking and activism and all that. But I just look at the long term, and I feel for them, because it's just we're up against like impossible odds. So I guess that's really what I'm talking about is, all these things we're up against institutionally. It just makes it very hard to run an organization like that. But I think they're good. Bobby says, gang weed here. Who's the most base Twitch streamer? Me, of course. Everybody else is banned from Twitch, honestly. Anon says, why did you ban me on Twitter? At Team Best Team. Literally all I said was yesterday's stream went down. Yeah. Yeah, look, I've said this before. When the stream goes down and I get like 100 people, hey, Nick, did you know the stream went down? Or hey, Nick, Boomer Tech. I block. I'm frustrated. I'm angry, and people are going to bust my balls about it. Blocked. So, yeah, maybe I'll take a look. Daddy's Girl says, LOL at your crack baby gay son comparison the other night. Same as I came up with to reconcile people born gay with Christianity. Anyway, pee-pee poo-poo, thanks for all you do. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, pretty good comparison. And, look, we have to be charitable with people. I think there's a middle ground where, because I do know people who are homosexual in the movement, people that are good people, frankly, and I don't agree with their lifestyle. I think it's ultimately immoral, but they're otherwise ethical. They try to be moral and as normative as possible people. I think you have to be charitable when it comes to that. But here's the problem. Here's where we have an issue. We are being pushed so far to the extreme with this kind of stuff, the propaganda with degeneracy, that if you want somebody to tell you, no, but it's okay, we should be charitable, there's like just enough of that goes on. There's not enough people taking a hard stand against this kind of stuff in the streets. So my position is probably a lot more nuanced, and I'm not even saying this for the YouTube terms of service. I would probably say, it's an unfortunate position to be in if you're a believer and that happens, and it's a terrible lifestyle. Of course, it's all suffering. I saw a thread on Poll the other day, and it was like, kids get sexually abused, they become gay, and we like feel for them when they're abused, but then like when they're gay, then we shit on them. We understand why that happens, but so my position is a little bit more charitable. However, but the strong however is the society is pushed so far to the limit. We've just got so much of that. The pendulum is so far in the other direction. It's like, do we really need to be, sort of couching that and moderating and being charitable? I think if anything, it has to be totally the other way and say, look, we have to stand out and speak out against all this crap that's going on. And then if it gets remotely to back where we need to be, then we can worry about being charitable, But just to introduce a little, nuance there. But that's our last super chat. I think that's going to do it for us. That's everything. Finally, right? It's, 9:16, and I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. At 10 a.m., I had a bowl of mini wheats. So I haven't eaten anything in 12 hours. I haven't slept in, 48 hours. So I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling good. But that's going to do it for us on the show. Remember to check us out at NickJFuentes.com/membership to become a premium subscriber. Remember, it's only $5 a month, and it's the best way to support our show. Show is 100% viewer funded. We cannot do the show without viewer contributions, particularly the premium subscription. It's the best way to support our show, and you get one additional show every week. We have an exclusive show that we did yesterday, an interview with Jesse Lee Peterson, not to be confused with Jordan Peterson. Jesse Lee Peterson yesterday, which was uploaded last night. It's an hour and 10 minutes. You also get access to the whole back catalog, 20-plus hours of premium content, only $5. Pretty great deal. Link is down below. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Give us a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Click the notification button. You get notified every time I go live. Remember, I am on the air Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm NickJFuentes. As always, thank you guys for watching. Thanks to our super chatters, premium members, everybody who watches the show. We love you folks. And we will see you tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. It's going to be only America first. America first. The American people will come first once again.